It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Thursday, December 12th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's digging into that incredible new line of Kates with Brink and Foerster.
Yeah, it's exciting.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. And keep the season going with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. To keep up with the Flyers' latest information and our episodes, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, including Blue Sky, and of course here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, we do have a Flyers versus Red Wings game to talk about. We're going to preview that later in the show, as well as do a prospect profile on draft eligible prospect Ben Kevan. Very excited to talk about this kid, a very intriguing draft prospect here.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't get the pub right now, but he'll start to get it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So the line that has been generating the most buzz for the Flyers as of late is this Tyson Foerster, Noah Cates, Bobby Brink line, right? And while they did get some selected minutes randomly here and there just because of line changes and whatnot on the ice earlier in the season, they really have only been together as a line solidly for 9 games. And it feels like a little longer than that, but it really is 9 games, starting with the November 23rd game against the Blackhawks. They have 72.6 minutes together so far, which is 5th on the team in terms of all the different line combinations. And they got their most ice time together against the Rangers and the most recent game against the Blue Jackets, where they were out there for over 10 minutes together. In those games. The least ice time was in the first game versus the Blackhawks, just under 6. So that's when they got like a little bit of
they're
time, and
testing
then
them.
and they were like, oh, well, maybe this could be something. And certainly the eye test says they've been one of the more dynamic lines for the Flyers at both ends of the ice. You see them because of Noah Cates having some good defensive work there, but then you've also seen them get a lot of offensive opportunities, and more specifically second and third chances, right? Because they're really dogged with the puck and their forecheck.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Noah Cates really does not get much credit on this team at all. The coach doesn't really say anything about him. And he just goes about his job and he does it well. And he's not going to be a big time scorer. Like, you should already know that if you're a fan. Like,
Right.
but you should know he does everything else, all those little things that make a line important. And, he's helping Brink be a little better, and he's definitely helping Foerster come out of his funk.
Oh, yeah. And, I think that you saw in the game against Columbus, right? Noah Cates gets his second goal of the season. So he isn't that top scorer, but he absolutely helps those other two guys, and
He does.
specifically Tyson Foerster. If you're looking at the line stats over on Money Puck for the season for the Flyers, this line is the top line on the team in expected goals for percentage, which is huge. That is like a really remarkable thing considering the other lines that are out there, Mitchkoff's lines included in
I think it's
that
about the
discussion.
matchups. That's why.
Yeah. Well, that's probably true to some degree, but you do need a line like this,
No, you
right?
do, but like, they're never going to match up against some other team's top line. The Mitchkov one
Oh,
always
sure.
does, right? So there's
Yeah.
always a little bit of something with that.
Yeah, and to that point, if you look at the expected goals for per 60 on the team, the top few lines are all lines with Couturier in them somehow, which totally checks out, right? And so
Right.
they're but they're the first line without Sean Couturier on that list.
Yeah,
And so, I think that kind of speaks to the matchup thing you were just talking about.
yeah, and I think it does, and they branched on their own, and right now, Brink's on a pretty good clip. He still needs to score more goals, but at least he's getting more assists with this line because of Forster, so that's helping his numbers. But I still need to see more out of Bobby Brink, especially if they're going to try and extend him in the near future. I think so this line's important for that and for the team.
Right. And I think, we talk about the defensive side of things. This line, because again, there are like a third line, they're getting more starts in the defensive and neutral zone. So,
Right.
as far as zone starts, they have 24 each in the defensive zone and the neutral zone, and only 12 in the offensive zone. So half as many as the other two. And I think, the fact that they have been able to generate as much offense as they do speaks to their abilities here and their chemistry that they're building, just because they don't get the jump start of being
Yeah.
in the zone.
And I think, look, Tyson Foerster is young. I've mentioned it before, and I think he's still finding his way in this league. So uh, that's why I'm not as hard on him. I want him to score goals, believe me. But Brink is much older. He's a few years older, what, 3 years older,
Right.
maybe 4 years older. And so, like, to me, there's a difference there. I mean, no, he's 2 years older. So yeah, because right now Forster's 22. Got to be 12. He's going to be 23 in January. So this is a year where he's got to break the 20 goal mark. I think.
Yeah, and I think that this is a line where he should have the opportunity to do so. And I think
Yeah.
as long as they keep these guys together for a decent stretch, there's always going to be a time where the lines get shuffled because that's just hockey,
True.
right? It happens. But I think if this line gets a decent stretch together, and then even if it gets broken up, it gets put back together at some point, he should have the opportunity to do that. It'll just be up to him to execute.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that it will be up to him to execute. And again, if they're looking to extend him and kind of lock him into the future core of this team, he's got to prove that he's worthy of doing that. Because that's the trend. You want to lock up these guys when they're young, but they do have to show you a certain amount before a team is willing to do that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, it's a matter of, are the coaches going to want to prioritize Tyson Forster's play at this
Hmm.
point? And if keeping this line together means Tyson Forster continues the level of production that he's had recently, then let the chips fall where they may with those other guys, because they know they're going to get good faceoffs and good defensive
Right.
play from Cates,
Right.
and Bobby Brink's along for the ride, and that should be okay with the team for the duration of this season. Now, what it means for Bobby Brink going forward and their estimation of him is going to depend on him.
Right.
So I think all of that is okay, frankly.
Yeah, I think look, there's no place else you could move Brink to in the lineup anyhow. He can never play fourth line. He's not a top six guy. So that's the spot. Forster, yeah, presumably you could move him up to the second line at some point. He's not going to be a top line guy. I know they've tried him there, but now
Right.
that you have Michkov, there's no reason to do that. So
Yep.
yeah, right now he's got to work his way up. If he wants to prove he's a second liner, he's going to have to play even better.
Right, but I just don't know that that's even necessary. I think he just needs to prove that he can produce at his decent level, to expectation, and be on a successful line that's producing and is playing well defensively per the tort system, right? That's all they have to do is be part of the team defense that the system requires and pot some goals.
Well, I mean, they have more
It's
expectations
easier
than
said
that.
than done, right?
Yeah, but they have more expectations than that for him, and I get it.
Yeah, I do, but I think that sometimes those expectations change, and I think they have with Bobby Brink to some degree.
Well, Brink,
Um,
maybe, with Forster, no.
no, that's correct, and that's why I feel like they're emphasizing Forster's production here and
Yeah,
doing whatever they can to make sure he is in the right position to be able
yeah,
to get more points on the board here. I think that's the most important. This line is third on the team in shot attempts per 60. right now at 65.29. They are the best line at shot attempts against per 60. Again, matchups
Well, that's
have
not
something to
a
do with
shock,
it.
but it's not a shock though.
Right.
Cates has a lot
So,
to do with that, and Forster, like you said, he's getting
right.
better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they even talked about getting Forster in on the PK a little bit more.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's going to happen,
I don't know if
but
that's gonna
they're
happen.
talking about it as just a you need to learn how to play in these situations kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if his feet are good enough to do that, so I'm not sure I would rush him into that. I know that you could say, "Hey, it
Yeah,
was
he's
great for
lower on the
connecting."
list. Right.
Yeah. Like, for connecting, it's different. Connecting has a way different skill set, and I could see why it was gonna be a fit with connecting, but Forster, it's pushing it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with that moving forward. But I do think this is a line that they are going to want to keep together. Let's see how Tyson Forster does, moving forward. Let's see how Bobby Brink does and if he can get some more points and then go from there if they stay together.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I could see that.
All right. Well, hopefully they will stay together against the Detroit Red Wings. And we are going to talk about that game that is happening tonight coming up next. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. One of the things that I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because you can avoid all that busy work. You can use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employees agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at indeed.com/locked on. Just go to indeed.com/locked on right now. Support Locked On Flyers by saying you heard about Indeed on the show. That's indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I would take the Ravens on the money line. I probably would bet against the Giants the rest of the year, to be honest. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right. So tonight, the Philadelphia Flyers face the Detroit Red Wings, and we will be recapping that on tomorrow's show, as well as giving a preview of the weekend match up against the very exciting Minnesota Wild. That it's going to be a tough game as well. The Red Wings is our first of 3 meetings this season. The second one is next week, so pretty much like a
That's
back-to-back
weird.
scenario. The schedule is really, really bizarre this season. They are currently 11, 13, and 4, sixth in the Atlantic, 4, 4, and 2 in their last 10. And I think the big story going on with them right now is that they're just losing a ton of one-goal games
Yeah.
that they can't seem to put it together to win, whether they're behind, whether they're ahead, they just cannot finish off any
Yeah, that game
games
against the
here.
Sabres was wild.
Right.
A lot of
Where
lead
they
changes.
right, so they finally won one of these games
Yeah,
6-5 in a shootout it
right.
took, and November 25th was their last game that was more than a one-goal game margin where they won versus the Isles 4-2. All 7 games since then have been one-goal games, and, of course, like you said, they just won the lone shootout, 2 went to overtime. I think this season has been nothing but a bucket of frustration for the Red
A
Wings.
bucket of frustration. I like that. I kind of agree with that. Yeah, I mean, again, I always get in trouble with Red Wings fans when I say I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Now, as far
Yeah.
as this game, they definitely have something to prove. They are coming off a win. So that's something where, you think they might look at this game and say, all right, we need to get back on track. Uh, I was digging into their stats. The biggest thing you worry about is the fact that they have Dylan Larkin. He's always dangerous. Kane could kind of hit you anytime. He's not the same player, but he's still tricky. And the power play. The power play is really, really good. I mean, it's seventh in the league. So that's something where, and the Flyers' penalty kill has been plummeting lately.
Yeah, I think that is a huge issue. And, the thing with the Red Wings is that they're having trouble getting depth scoring until this last game against Buffalo. It's been a huge
Playing
issue.
Buffalo
But they're
cures a lot of ills. Let's face it.
well, there is that. But like their top guys are acting like they're top guys, right?
Right.
To your point, like Dylan Larkin has just been a huge part of this team. Moritz Seider, is always a tough defenseman to play
Yeah.
against. And so I think that, it's not going to be like the hardest game ever, but it's certainly going to pose some challenges here.
And they have
And
pace. They have a lot of guys that can
yeah,
skate. Raymond skates great. Larkin skates really good. I mean, they have guys that can push the pace too.
yeah. And, they have been struggling, like I said, and they've been shuffling lines recently. So, they have a second line now that's Comfer with Tarasenko and Cop. And like Cop just scored in the last game, which he hadn't for a while. So I think, some of this shuffling has done a little bit of good
Yeah,
for
Comper's
them.
really good on faceoffs, and he could be
Hmm.
a shark that way. And actually, Cop is really good on faceoffs too. So that's a line where even if they pull out Comfort, they could basically put Cop in there, and they don't really miss anything. So that's something. But yeah, Lucas Raymond's their point leader, and we can't forget about Alex Debrincat because with that shot, that's part of the
Right.
reason the power play is so good. Like he's got 6 power play goals.
Yeah. And I think with the Flyers penalty kill starting to stumble a little bit here, they were like the second best in the league. Now they're 16th. That is definitely a tumble. The Red Wings penalty kill is a hell of a lot worse and is
Oh yeah,
31st in the league. So there is that for the benefit of the Flyers power play, which is still, even though it's been getting a little better, I would say it's still struggling at 25th overall in the league, at 17.4% compared to the 25.6% of the Detroit Red Wings. The other things that I want to talk about, first off, the goaltending situation. They have a tremendous injury problem with goaltending right now. It looks like Cam Talbot will be back in and likely will be able to play against the Flyers. Huso had a terrible game and got yanked.
yeah.
So
I mean, the
Sebastian
Flyers. I think
Costa got put in, but Kosa just got sent back
yeah, they
to
killed. They didn't play any defense for Costa. I think that was in the
right.
Sabres game, right? So that wasn't great. But I
But
think that
Kosa's going back to Grand Rapids.
right.
So
No, no, I know.
either
That's fine.
so it seems like Cam Talbot should be ready to
Yeah,
go.
Talbot was doing way better than I thought he would this year. So I think the
Yeah.
Flyers would rather face Huso than Talbot, to be honest.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But in practice yesterday, it was Talbot, Alex Lyon, our old friend, and Huso were the ones on the ice there.
Yeah,
So
and
um
Edmondson's starting to improve on defense. He's a big kid. He's starting to get like 22, 23 minutes a game. He just got a game winner recently. So he's a guy that's starting to improve for them. So that's another thing you have to watch is just, him on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
It's a winnable game,
the
no doubt.
it is a winnable game, and I think it's a winnable game in the same way that the Columbus game was a very winnable game. It's that this is a team that is in this weird spot that should be doing better this
This
year
team
that
has a lot
hasn't
more talent than Columbus, though.
well, yes, but
When you
I
break apart the team aspect
yes.
of it and start going over, because we didn't even talk about Tarasenko, even though he's older, he could still sting you. Like they have much more talent, but they're just not putting it together.
Yeah. Well, and of course, like Patrick Kane is sitting
Yep.
there, but they kind of moved him down a little bit in
I
this
mean,
line
he's not the
shuffling.
same. I kept trying to
And
tell people last couple of years,
yeah,
he's not the same.
no, and that's why they put him on a line with Casper and Rasmussen because those guys are going to do all the puck retrieval.
Correct.
So Kane can just like skate in and,
Yeah.
it's almost like the Phil Kessel thing
Yeah, it
going
is like the
on.
Phil Kessel thing. I think that's a very good analogy.
Yeah. So, everybody else does all the work and he can come in and take his shot, which is still a
Yeah.
good shot. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like he's not doing anything else these
No,
days.
no, that's fine.
I think there's some similarities here in terms of scoring chance
Mhm.
stats at 5-on-5. They're both like pretty bad, honestly.
Yeah.
The Flyers are slightly better, but they're like the fifth worst in the league, and the Red Wings are the fourth worst in the league. So, I think it's just one of these things where there's a lot of opportunity for the Flyers here, and they just have to take advantage and play solidly defensively to stop the speed of the Red Wings.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, they did that against Columbus for most of the
Yep.
game. They have to do it again.
And that's where I see the similarities between the 2 games,
Yeah,
right? It's like the type of defense they're gonna have to play in
yeah.
order to win, and then also score some goals again, because wouldn't that be nice? Alright, it is Thursday, and we traditionally look ahead to some prospects, whether it's a Flyers prospect, how they're doing, or a draft eligible prospect. We're gonna do the latter and talk about Ben Kevan, talking about him next. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. And here's why you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks, and you can also get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. There's no need to win. That $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select player projections are discounted up to 25%. So download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. That's right, you'll get $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. So Ben Kevan, Russ, is a right winger, 6 foot, 182 pounds. So a solid size, not huge, but not
Mhm.
small either. And he's like really interesting to me just because he's in this weird middle land as far as prominence in USA hockey because
Mhm.
he's in the USHL playing for Des Moines on their top line very successfully. He's had a little time in and out of the US system, as far as U18s, but now he's a part of the USA squad for this World Junior A Challenge, which is
Right.
happening right now, which is a U19 tournament.
Right.
Unlike the U18s or the World Juniors, which is
Right. But
U20,
a lot of
this
good
is like
players have come out of it.
right. And so he's got 3 goals in 2 games so far.
No shot.
The next game is today in that tournament. But he also was invited to the Prospects Challenge in November. He didn't get any points on the board, but still the invite is worth
Yep.
something alone. So if you could sort of explain, Russ, this Junior A Challenge and the Prospects Challenge and kind of where they wait in terms of invites and how that helps your standing.
Yeah, the junior A is kind of like, almost like that second tier where, they have the NTDP and that U18 team, and then they have a team that they put together for this tournament. A lot of times it's in Bonnieville. I don't know where it is this year, but I know people have gone there in the past. I've not covered it, but it's a mix of talent. Like you'll have like 4 or 5 really talented guys in this tournament, and then the rest are good players. And some years it has a little bit more talent than others. For a guy like Heaven, if he does well in this, it's going to keep propelling him because this is going to give him the opportunity to have more scouts see him that wouldn't necessarily get out to all the USHL games. So I think having more regional scouts seeing him for different teams is a good thing. They know about him, but now they're going to get to see him more. And now they're starting to see, hey, you put this guy on his own, essentially, he could still produce.
Yeah, and if you look at his stats so far, he's got 16 points in 16 games for Des Moines. which is real solid, 6 goals and 10 assists. And so, I think that there is a lot of room for him to grow here. If you look at early rankings, he's ranked like super late first round, early second round, but it seems like based on scouting reports that he's somebody that could be on the rise, especially again if he performs well in this tournament and the rest of the season moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I had him 14th because I had seen enough of him a little bit last year, and now to say I know what he can do. He got hurt early in the season at the Fall
Hmm.
Classic, so that set him back a little bit, and he had to recover from that. That's why he hasn't played more than 16 games. But now he's getting in on the tournaments and everything else, and I feel like I have him in the right spot, and others are going to have to adjust on him. And so I do think that's what's going to happen because, again, he got on Sports Center. All these things matter. There's a lot of light shining on him because he plays at speed. He's got really tremendous stick handling. He's better on defense than I think people give him credit for. I think that's something he's working on. But he is a really good team player. He's calm and not a lot throws this kid. I really like that.
Yeah, watching some of his highlights and reading some scouting reports, you just see like the vision there as a
Oh yeah,
playmaker,
yeah,
and the fact that he knows where the defenders who are coming toward him, he knows exactly what they're going to do and skates
yes,
just around them.
yeah.
It's just like really cool to
He's got
watch.
like a
Like
cheat code at times. Yeah,
he does, and it's really fun, and the fact that he is somebody that is a playmaker, but he can also score himself, right?
yep,
So he knows, like, when to dish it off, he knows, where his trailers are gonna be, he builds that kinda chemistry with his line mates, it seems, and he's also finding success on the power play, obviously, with these kind
yes.
of skills. And I think that he's quick. His skating is like one thing he doesn't necessarily need to work on. He'll need to
No,
get
it's good.
faster just to
Sure.
match the level of the game he's
But
in,
he thinks it
but not,
fast.
yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't have technique issues, which is
No.
often a problem with guys
Mhm.
like this who've relied on their IQ over their technique.
Yeah, this is one of those guys that not being on the NTDP has been a real positive for him, and that's a good thing. So I look at him and I say, if you're the Flyers, if you don't get in that top 10, he's a guy you have to start looking at. Now, if they have their mindset on a defenseman first, or they're going to try and go center first, then you hope he slips for that second one, or you trade for that second one and try and get like around 16, 17 if he's still there for that. Trading into the top 10, I think, is going to be hard, and I don't think the Flyers are going to be able to do it. There might be like one willing partner. So I don't think that's going to be a worthwhile thing. But if they take their first pick and he's still on the board, they'll have an extra pick possibly that they could put in a trade and, might be worth it because I think this guy will play in the NHL and I think he's just getting better. I think he'll surprise. I think he is already surprising some.
Yeah. No, I absolutely think that, again, presuming he just continues this trajectory for the
Right.
rest of his season
I
in the
mean, last year was good
USHL.
too. Now it's just even better.
Right. Right. And so, yeah, I think as long as he just keeps on this trajectory, keeps his play up and keeps producing, I think he'll be in a really good position going into the draft, and definitely somebody that I will add to my list again of players to get attached to that will ultimately not get drafted by the Flyers, and I will be sad about it.
You don't
But
know
who
though.
knows?
I mean, they
But who
have a lot
knows?
of
This one
picks.
could surprise me.
This one
Yeah.
could surprise you. They do have a lot of picks, and so I think there's a chance for this one, and I'd like to see it because, like I said, I enjoy watching him just from a scouting perspective. He's really a fun player to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to tracking him for the rest of this Junior A challenge and the rest of the USHL season moving forward.
And he's going to
That
Arizona State. That's pretty good too. Just
Oh
wanted to
yeah,
add that.
yeah, absolutely. So that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow we're going to recap the game against the Red Wings, talk about the high flying Minnesota Wild. They are not mild anymore, it
No,
appears, and wrap up our thoughts for the week. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on those same socials. That's SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.